Hello and welcome to the King's Forum podcast show. I have a very special guest here, Aisha. Hi, Aisha.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for
I'm
having me
good.
on your show.
You're welcome. Aisha is an intuitive life coach and medium, and I'm going to ask her some questions about, how she got into this line of work and, her journey. Aisha, when did you realize that you had a gift?
So I realized when I was 13, so basically I had a near-death experience
Really?
where, yeah, I actually flatlined for 20 minutes.
Wow.
And yeah, so when I came back, I just saw the world through completely different eyes. And it was really overwhelming for me at that age because I could hear people's thoughts, I could see the spirit world, and it was for like about 5 days after the experience. I wish I had like a switch button where I could just like switch everything off because it was too much. It was sort of like flooding in everything. It was a bit too much for me. And then it kind of like, sort of like went down a bit. But during that time, after the death experience, I didn't talk for 3 days because I was more or less like in shock.
Oh, that makes
But
sense.
yeah, that's what happened.
That whole being flatlined,
Yes.
remember your thoughts during that period before you were revived and
Yeah, so basically what happened, there was no tunnel that I saw. People usually talk about a tunnel and then they see the light at the end of the tunnel. No, what I saw is basically I had really beautiful music and I've tried to like source this music or search for it and I haven't heard this music ever again. And what I felt is I just saw myself like floating in light. And it was so beautiful. It was like the most serene, euphoric feel that I've ever felt in my life. And it felt like peppermint, as if my whole body had been immersed in like a peppermint ocean. So I
wow.
just felt like a cooling vibe like throughout my body. And I was floating. Oh, it was so beautiful. But for me, it just felt like a couple of minutes.
Yeah, of
And
course.
then suddenly I remember coming back into my body and I literally remember saying in my head, oh no, I'm back. But
Really?
that was yeah, that was the experience. It was just absolutely beautiful.
Wow. So what
Mm.
abilities do you have?
Okay, so basically I can communicate with people who have passed on, although I've been trying to sort of like avoid that as much as I can, but it just happens. I can be randomly sitting in public or in with a group of friends, and then suddenly I just get all these messages coming through about a certain person on the table or certain person within my vicinity. I can character read. So even if you give me a picture, I'll be able to like tell you everything about that person's character and how they are, their thoughts, their intentions. So it actually works well for people in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So what happens, I get sometimes asked by, I have had like heads of banks ask me to sort of like screen all their employees, things like that. Um, yes, I can feel the pain of the other person. So I am a healer as well. So if I'm sitting in front of the person, I can pick up on the pain, I can pick up on the emotional pain, the physical pain, and I can also determine how that pain occurred if there was trauma from the person's past. So I literally see past, present, and as much of the future I'm allowed to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me about the healing process. How do you heal? Where's that coming from? How do you get this energy to
Uh,
people?
okay, so I can only bottle it. Well, I can interpret it as angelic, as an angelic gift, um, without sounding egoistic about it. So basically, I have dreamt a lot of angels, and I've had angels come and give me messages and explain to me and actually teach me in my dreams how to heal. Although I have done a couple of courses and I've also been through a Sufi teaching as well, because I had a paralysis as a teenager. I mean, after the death experience, I ended up getting a paralysis for several years and I was healed in 40 days in a Sufi, like a small little town in Sudan. Literally, I was able to walk again. But okay, so with the healing process, basically what I do is I visualize light coming through my crown chakra and into my heart because ultimately healing is from the heart. People say it's healing through the hands. Hands is a vessel or like an outer
Sense.
portal,
Yeah.
but it's from the heart, because we can be here and we can heal somebody in Australia. So what I do is I just project that light to the person, but I visualize it sort of like twirling, and then I sort of like push it through that person's chest. And I can be anywhere. I can do this on the phone. I can do this through a picture. I can even just through a name.
Wow. No, but the interesting thing is, because people, I was just wondering, like in regards to healings, can you, is there limits to this? Can you heal any type of illness or?
Mm. Okay, so I mean, I've tried cancer, so I have had success with cancer. I had a success ages ago, but this was like way back when I was like 22, and it was somebody who was HIV positive, and I managed to turn it back to HIV negative, but that was just a one-off. But of course, there are limits. Whoever has come to me with their ailments, I've been able to help. But something like broken bones, I can accelerate the healing process for that person. But ultimately, we can't change what's written or what's destiny. If it's somebody's time, it's somebody's time. Because some people come to me and the patient or the person the person in subject is like terminal, or they're like in a
Yeah.
really, really bad state, or they're on life support or something like that. So I've tried, but there have been times when the person's passed on, and like I said, I can't stop what's written. What's written is written. Like the time when I had my death experience, it wasn't my time. So for other people, sometimes it is their time. um, I'll give another example. I had a patient who had aggressive Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah.
And when he first came to see me, he had already been through chemo and it had disappeared, but then it came back, and Hodgkin's lymphoma always comes back super aggressive, and it had spread all over his lungs, all over his body. And I took him on as a patient, but I didn't charge him anything, because I said, listen, I even saw him like my son. I said, I have no guarantee this is going to work, but let's just try. So I used my healing method, and I also used herbs as well, because there are certain herbs that can help to, prevent the spread of cancer. So like there's some leaves called noni leaves, which usually grow in tropical countries. So we gave him that. He was also getting vitamin B shots. I gave him Nigella sativa, which is black onion seeds as well. So I was working on his diet, but many different things as well. And then what happened is I actually referred him to a friend of mine, and he was a descendant of a really powerful saint. And he just gave him this connection to a path. It's called, just gave him a dose of divine love, and it was wiped out within a week. It completely disappeared. He went into full remission. But so I collaborated. So I was collaborating with another healer. So when I did his work, it stopped the aggression. It stopped the aggressive spread of it.
Okay.
And then it was my friend who was able to just completely clear it like that. So yeah, that was one success story, but I can't claim credit for that because it was my friend who cleared it. Yeah,
Cool.
but we collaborated. It was a collaboration. And the thing is that with healing, you're doing it from your heart. It's unconditional love. That's what it is. People try to bottle it and give it different names and put symbols and this and that, but it's just love.
Wow. So talk about your readings. How are you able? Do you just see things as it come to you when you're doing your readings?
Okay, so when I'm doing my readings, usually what happens is the person sits in front of me or they're on the phone, and I take their name down, mum and dad's name, date of birth. And I know this may sound strange. I also write profession, so it's like for me to like tune in finally, because I can see aspects of their life and aspects of their work environment. And then what I do is sometimes I close my eyes. Sometimes I can just look like that at an angle. I don't know how to explain it. And then I just get visions come through and I just speak. So it's almost as if it's channeled, although I'm very much alert. I don't go into a trance or anything like that. And I don't use cards, although I have in the past, but I don't need cards to be able to get an accurate reading. And with my readings, they're direct. I'm not telling sort of like vague, airy fairy stuff. I tell people facts. I pick up on something that's happened like in their life that's very relevant. I'll pick up on their feelings, what they're going through. You know, sometimes I pick up on names. I can pick up even on numbers, or, you know, but something that's very relevant to them. So they like, okay, yes, this is direct. This is actually what's going on. And I don't like them to tell me, oh, I'm having this problem. I'm like, no, let me focus. Let me tune in and see that I'm really getting the energy. Because unfortunately, within this field or within this realm, there are a lot of people who are charlatans. A lot of people who are charlatans, and a lot of people who just suddenly do weekend courses and they suddenly become Reiki masters, or they suddenly become expert tarot readers. And they can also, I'm not condemning people, but I'm just saying there are a lot of people who are self-proclaimed and say, oh, I've done this, and they don't know the hard work or what other healers have gone through. Because it's usually born, you usually inherit the gift, or it can come to you at a certain stage of life after going through quite a bit of hardship. But there are a lot of charlatans who feed off people's fears and give them what they tell them what they want to hear. So it's flowery talk, you understand? And some people, what it is that a lot of people are just looking for someone to talk to.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? Confiding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like counseling. I do counseling. It's sort of like psychological counseling with an intuitive slant and healing. And so I have helped people come off depression, people come off alcohol dependency and drug addiction. And you know, so I help, like, it spreads over like a whole range of subjects, like even marriage breakdowns. I help people, you know, to help save homes. I've helped get people, both men and women, out of extremely abusive narcissistical situations, you know. So I always try to be positive, and I'm always like, everybody calls me an optimist. So, you know, for me, the glass is always half full.
Yeah, that's a good way to be, isn't it? Because
I
it's
think
really,
it's the only way.
yeah, to be positive and, you know, have a positive outlook on things. So
Yes.
talk to me, because obviously it's not the type of thing a young person would, you know, be pushed into career-wise and things like that. So when did you decide that this was for you and this was a career you wanted to follow?
Okay, so basically, after I had my paralysis and I was healed from it, the person who healed me said, this is your life path. You may want to go to university and study other things, but you'll be pulled back to this. This is your calling. So what happened is, when I came back from at the time I was living in Kenya, but when I came back from the Sudan and came back to Kenya, my mum said, you know what? It was actually my mum who encouraged me. She's like, you remember when you were in that state when you were like paralyzed and you could just see for people and you could just tell them everything? Why don't you just try it? And I was like, how? And she's like, I don't know. Write their name down, write their date of birth, or just try. So she got her friend to do a reading, and that's how I started. It literally started by default, just my mum encouraging me.
You know, because
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, kind of, you know, your family and friends, when this was something you decided. So your mom actually was your mom's idea. But
Yeah, because
kind of,
my family's, yeah, sorry.
no, it's fine. I was just gonna say, kind of, what did your friends say about it? And
Oh, so my friends were like super excited. So they all wanted readings. So, and my mum would really tell me off because they'd all be on the phone, like, tell me, what does my boyfriend think? What's gonna happen? Is he the right one? And my mum would be like, stop it. So it were a lot of my friends would use me for my gift. And then I was able to differentiate who were really my friends and who were just like using me for the gift that I had. But then sometimes what's really interesting is that I could just be in a taxi and I'll just start blurting stuff out about the taxi driver. But it will be a message that's very relevant for him and that he needs to hear or she needs to hear. But I can be with someone somewhere and they'll be like, hey, just tell me stuff. And I'll be like, so my angels will just be like, no. But then with someone just random, I'll be like, hey, by the way, you're going through this, 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 this. If you want it to work out, do this, 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 this. And they're like, oh my God, I really needed to hear that. So it's just interesting. It's like, unless now you're coming and you booked in for a reading, of course I have to do your reading. Yeah. But otherwise, if it's just taking advantage of my gift, sometimes my angels are very selective.
Mhm.
So
I hear that.
it's interesting. Yeah.
I hear that. I was just wondering kind of how these gifts have impacted your relationships. You're like, with partners and things. Has this had a bearing on? Because if you
Yeah.
see things, have you been able to see things about them? Does that? Because it's almost like preempting, and so you're going through life, and if people are telling you, "Oh, this can happen," I almost don't want to know. You see what I mean? I've always been like,
Yeah.
because in the past, obviously, the West Indian community, my parents are from Grenada, so this is nothing new to me. So this type of thing, there was always clairvoyance
Happens.
around, and intuitive people, and like my mum's mum and my grandma and stuff like that were meant to be people who can see things. So it's a part of it, but I've always not wanted to know, because it's almost like I feel like I'm being led in that direction, or psychologically I'm being led, because I know what's coming for me. So I almost don't want to, and I want to
Mm.
experience it, my life with fresh eyes, and not being aware of things, so I can really embrace what's coming. You see what I mean? And then
Yes.
coming might not always be great, but I just want to live life to the fullest. So I always
Yes.
think that may play on your mind and things. So even you who has a gift, how has that impacted kind of your mindset when you've gone into relationships? And
Yeah, so that's the thing. I can't see for myself. I
cool.
might dream and get warnings in dreams, but generally I can't see for myself. So even if I can get a feeling when I meet the person, but when it gets like emotionally, when I get emotionally attached to the person, I can see less and less of the person, because now
Oh,
my feelings are involved.
a cloud.
And yeah, and maybe like the person that I'm seeing or dating or my partner, whoever it is, they know about my gift, and they've always accepted me, because I would never embark on a relationship anyway without the person accepting me for who I am. And it's usually the person I'm involved with is also fairly intuitive themselves.
Interesting. The connection there.
Mm, yes, yes. I feel there has to be a connection for anyone, actually. There has to be sort of like an energetic connection for the relationship to evolve, or for each of you to be able to go forward and to become better people. Because you can't have somebody who's an empath, who's so much in the heart, and most empaths are very intuitive and they feel and they sense things. And then with an empath being with somebody who's totally in the ego, or just not accepting anything, or kind of cold-hearted, that is not going to work. The dynamics are just completely, wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would be your definition of a spirit?
Okay, so there are different spirits. Okay, so basically you have, um, when somebody passes on, of course, the soul, or the soul lives within the body. The body is like just a vessel. Okay. Now, when the person passes on, the soul comes out or whatever, and then the soul can be in between, like limbo, or yeah, there's that in between period. Like some souls haven't yet moved on to heaven, or they haven't moved on to the afterlife. They're sort of like trapped in that door, and not in that door, so in that room. And some souls can come and visit. That's when the mediumship comes in, and and usually they're always accompanied by an angel. So that's one category of soul, of spirit. So I would say the spirit of a person who's passed away. Then you have another category, which are known as the jinns. Now, the jinns are, okay, so you have creation. Okay, so you have the angels, and the angels are made of pure light, and they're programmed to do good, and they can only do good. Then you have humans, us, we have freedom of choice. And we're, according to tradition, we're clay manifested into human flesh, and we have also freedom of choice, and we can we've been put in the planet to learn, etc. Then you have another creation, which is known as the jinns, and the jinns are made from smokeless fire, but they've been hidden from our eyes because they look very different from us. Okay. Now, some have permission to appear in a human-like form, but they'll always be slightly different looking. Okay. Now, jinns also have freedom of choice. But jinns, because they were created very differently from human beings, they were actually created from smokeless fire. They have a different way of experiencing death and passing on. But human beings have been given power over the jinn world. And you get a lot of, I mean, because I also deal sometimes in exorcisms and stuff. So you have to have a knowledge of these jinns. And what they do is they feed off fear. And that's why I tell people, when you feel that there's a negative energy or an entity around, so you have the jinns, you have the spirits, so it's like different creations. But like I tell people, don't be scared. Fear is illusion.
Cool. So do you think it's important for people to believe in an afterlife?
Yes, I do, because it gives us sort of like a sense of hope as well, because it doesn't just end. The reason being is because I've had personal experience. I've been able to communicate with people of the dead, and I've been shown beautiful scenes. I've actually had visions of paradise and seen people who have passed away, got specific messages from them and been able to relate it to their loved ones. So I know a beautiful afterlife exists. And I know there is a realm which is of just basically peace, abode, and serenity. And I know there is also an in-between stage where some souls haven't yet got there. They're kind of like in a state of waiting.
So what's that state of waiting? What's that all about? Is it?
It's limbo. To be honest, I don't really have all the answers to that, but I just know that it's like some people are trapped. There was a time when somebody passed away, and it was my friend's father. And she actually just sent me his photograph of when he passed away in the hospital. And I was like, why did she send me this picture? I didn't really need to see this. And that night, I thought I was dying. I was like, oh my God. And I was feeling so much pain, and I could see his spirit, and I didn't know what was going on. So I got in touch with another medium psychic, and I was like, listen, this is what happened. This is what I've seen. And she's like, oh, you helped him to go onto the light. And I was like, serious? But it was such a painful experience because I felt the pangs of his death.
Wow.
Yeah. So for a long time, I was in denial of my mediumship. I was like, I don't want to feel that again. So when that happened, I was like, no way. Don't want to feel it. Don't want it. So even when I used to work from a shop in London, and they used to advertise me as medium, and I'd be like, no, take that down. I don't want to be advertised as medium, because I would feel, especially if someone had committed suicide or had a painful death, I would feel it, and I'd feel it with such an intensity. So like I said, that, you know, some people can be in between and some people can go to the light. Now I realize that there can be certain individuals in like certain mediums that can help other people to transition and go to the light. And my only sort of like assumption or trying to decipher the situation of this in-between stage is maybe they still have a lot of stuff that they need to sort out with family, relatives.
Unresolved.
And yeah, unresolved, exactly. That's what I feel.
Interesting. So what do you say to the non-believers who could probably listen to this conversation and think it's a load of nonsense and none of it makes any sense whatsoever, and we are probably living in some make-believe world if we think any of this is true?
Okay, so the thing is that I think it also bottles down to the belief of divine, the belief of God. Okay, and I always tell people God is closer. God is closer to us than our judge. So that God or divine light, it's just energy. We've all been imparted that light within us. So I would tell the person, do you believe in yourself? And they'd be like, yes, I exist. Like, okay, fine. So you have this divine light in you. You have that portion of God within yourself. And I feel ultimately it's everyone to discover themselves. And to discover yourself, you have to go through the heart. But so I don't want to sort of like branch away from the question. Everybody's entitled to their belief system. I've had so many people walk through the room wanting a reading and been complete skeptics. And what I do is when I start the reading, I'm like, please don't cross your arms, because when you cross your heart, because I see through the heart. So when you cross your hands, or some of them will sit, with their hands crossed and like, stone face, not trying to show any emotion. And then, because when I start the reading, I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to tell you about past, present, and as much as I can see. If I see something that resonates with you, please confirm it, like with yes or whatever. And if I say something that hasn't happened, please write it down, because it usually takes place. So most of them will just be like cross-armed and be like, mm, mm, mm. And doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean yes. It doesn't mean no. So I've faced people like that, and it's almost like chipping away at their heart, like they've got like a steel door. And then later on I realized, please uncross your arms. Please imagine your heart opening up like a lotus, because I'm like, you're coming in for a reading, obviously to test me, because you're a skeptic, but you're wasting your money. You've paid like God knows how much to, the time when I was working at the shop, or when you booked in for a reading. You've paid a lot of money for the reading or whatever it is. Make use of your time. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's, I believe everybody has a level of intuition. It's that gut instinct. That's why when you say, what does your gut say? Everyone has a level of intuition, and we can build this if we want to. So some people have stronger intuition. Some people have extra gifts to be able to help other people to open up and to wake up. So it's basically waking up and seeing through the eyes of the heart. I hope that answered the question.
No, definitely. I like that. So, Aisha, what platforms are you on? Talk about where can people, see your content.
Okay, so at the moment, I just restarted my Instagram. I had a break from social media for a while, so kind of like a detox. But yes, I'm on Instagram. As Noor Aisha, Noor_Aisha 444, which should probably be in the bio.
Yeah, we'll put
and yeah, that's where you can reach me. I have my website, and yeah,
cool.
That's where I am at the moment. I'm thinking of branching out into maybe TikTok, but I was like, I'm not sure how that would work.
I got some ideas, so we can speak on that as well.
Great.
But Aisha, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, definitely.
And thank you so much. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Definitely great insight. And as I said, there are non-believers and there are believers, but it's nice to have an interview with someone.
Everyone's entitled. Exactly. Yeah, everyone's entitled to their belief system. No judgment at all.
Thank you very much for your time, Aisha. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.